Hello, and welcome to this very special edition of the Centre for Creative Health in Conversation series. This series highlights members of the community who assist CCH in presenting their arts and health programs and allows us to focus on the amazing work that these professionals do. My name is Erin O'Donohue, and I am the recipient of the Centre for Creative Health inaugural curatorial fellowship in partnership with the Helpmann Academy. Now, as part of this fellowship, I curated the exhibition Sing My Body Electric, which featured new works by a local artist, Annelise Forster, and was held in the Emerging Artists Galleries at the Royal Adelaide Hospital between the 28th of May and the 22nd of July 2021. Now, tonight we are celebrating my successful completion of my fellowship, and joining me tonight is Annelise Forster.
Yeah.
And tonight we will be discussing this experience. Hi, Annie, how are you?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Lovely, thank you. Now, to start us off, how would you best describe your practice?
So my practice is kind of ever evolving at the moment. It's been going chopping and changing, but currently I'd say it's performative painting is kind of where it's heading. Basically, starting with painting, but trying to break into a bit more performative work and incorporating both, using movement a lot, which you can see in this body of work as well. But yeah, just really inspired by music and movement and letting that kind of guide me, right? And it's very process driven in all my work, not so focused on the outcome, but capturing how it was made and letting that guide the whole body.
Oh, that sounds absolutely lovely, like architecture. That's fantastic. So with that in mind, what inspired the concept for Sing My Body Electric?
So this has kind of been, I'm doing slow branches of kind of figuring out where I'm going with, sorry, I talk with my hands a lot. See, I'm all about movement. No, slowly branching from in my final year of uni, I started looking at music and how that kind of inspires and changes my artwork. And particularly last year, I was off to do a residency focusing on that as a body of work and as a project base. And this whole body of work basically came out of experimenting for that. So I just went down the path of looking at my personal experience with music and how these different songs change my perspective, they change my mood, and it's just how can I visually represent that and show how different that is for different pieces of music.
Most definitely. I mean, that's one of the main things I noticed about your work when I was looking for who I wanted to work with on this project. And your work really does encompass what we really try to convey in Centre for Creative Health. It's like, this is exactly how I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing, and it's just a beautiful process of the mind to the body onto the canvas, and it's just really healing both for you and the people looking at it, and it's absolutely beautiful work. Now, next question would be, how do you select what songs to listen to?
Sometimes I go actively looking for them, and other times I'm very much a person, if there's a song that I love, I'll literally listen to one song for an entire day and not listen to anything else. It's very much if I find it engaging, right? If I find it engaging, it's in my head, it's constantly feeling it, and sometimes it's kind of an unexplainable feeling, but there's something that captures me in it.
Yeah.
So particularly looking at this body of work, this is much more interpersonal. It's not so much about how everyone else feels about this music. I specifically connect to these songs for different reasons, whether it's a memory attached to it or just a specific emotion that it draws out of me. For some of them, I pick them because when I'm feeling kind of shitty, this is the song that brings me back. Or if I'm feeling a bit down, this is the song that I listen to be able to just sit with that emotion. So it was very important to have something that did have strong emotional connection with me, whether it changed it or just let me sit in something. Because I found if I don't have that connection with the song, I'm not going to be able to make a painting out of that, or not as successfully.
Not going to be a strong response. So no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds
and
like
not authentic connection with that.
Oh, exactly. And if you're going to make something that you feel is worthwhile, that's something you definitely want. I was going to say, so it seems like you have a really strong relationship with music. Has that always been the case?
Yeah, I don't play any music. I don't sing or anything. It's something that I enjoy, and I feel like it has this beautiful ability to just completely take someone somewhere, where like out of whatever they're in at the moment, or bring you back to a memory or something.
Yeah, it
It's like one of those
transports
things
you.
for me. Yeah, which I know art can have that same effect as well, but I think music has this like extra ability to do that. Yeah.
Well, I guess with music, there's more levels. It's not just vocals. There's all these different instruments that create different moods, I guess. But no, your work
Yeah.
definitely does it justice. So I guess my next question would be, when did you start incorporating your body into the work, and why, I guess? Have you always been drawn to that kind of idea of movement?
Yeah, been very drawn to that from the get-go. I first started experimenting it like in my last year of uni. Completely threw all the brushes away. First, I started like actually attaching brushes to different parts of my body, seeing how that would work, which is kind of interesting. That's something I want to come back to, looking at different ways around that. But I've always had a long history of dance. Like dance between like the ages 3 and 18. So that was always such a strong foundation for me. And continually finding ways to kind of bring that into my art. And I guess that's where the part of the music connection comes from as well, because that it just sits well in my brain that I hear something, I feel it, I'm just gonna start moving around. Like you can ask anyone that knows me, I'm constantly moving. I'll dance to anything, even if someone finds that embarrassing. So it feels like a natural progression just to have that as part of what I love doing. But yeah, I just started experimenting with literally rolling around on a canvas and just kind of seeing what would happen. And that's something I want to continue to do. How do I effectively do that and how to explore that in different realms? But it just feels so much more natural to stick my hand in some paint and smear it rather than sit there with a brush.
Absolutely. So did you ever have any hesitance of just kind of going outside of that realm of normality for application? Or were you just like, no, this is what I want to do, I'm doing it?
No, I'm such a textile person. So it felt just like if I see something like that, I'm like, I just want to get my hands in it. I want to get amongst it. So it kind of just felt like natural.
Fair enough. And
yeah.
Well, my next question actually was, what drew you to paint as your primary medium? But you've pretty much explained that perfectly.
Same thing. It's the texture of it. It's like I look at paint and I just think it's like yummy. It's like delicious. I want to eat it type thing. So it's kind of like there's so much you can do with it and so much you can incorporate into it that it's just really exciting medium to work with.
True. Yeah. I was in the gallery, well, the last time I was in the gallery, there were an older gentleman and his 2 grandkids who were viewing the work, and they kept looking at us like, what's that in there? Oh, that's amazing. I didn't notice that before. And I was like, yes, there's lots of little hidden secrets. Please look closer.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about it as well, is I've had lots of people like just tell me they'll see random things inside of it. I had some people, it's like similar work I've done, they found it quite violent, but then the same painting, someone's come to me and been like, oh, I see Scooby-Doo in this one. It's like total bar. But I love that I could create something that has total different meaning or no meaning to some people. It's I love hearing what people think and feel from it. So yeah.
Well, there's a concept in itself. You should do that for an exhibition. Nice idea. Feedback session. So following on from that, is there one work in particular that you feel really expresses the emotions that you were feeling when you created it, or even is there one that you have a very personal attachment to? Like,
there's one in particular that is really, it was very strong connection with, and it was almost like a bit of a healing process doing it. So there's one work called Me Aphrodite that was actually a rework from a previous exhibition. So it was 2 years ago, I think now, was when I made the work, and it was kind of I did it with a wonderful group of girls, and we looked at how intimate experiences had changed us as young people. And I displayed my body initially with all these messages and things that people were trying to tell me or do. And this body of work, this particular painting was reworking it to this song that I felt inspired, I feel invigorated by. And a big part of that was it's a very queer song, and it was like kind of owning that as part of my identity as well. And people might not get that from that, but it's kind of like my secret, like, felt great doing this. It was it was really important work for me to do on a very personal level.
I'm not surprised to hear that one bit. Like, if you didn't tell someone, you wouldn't know the message behind it. But looking at it, you can tell that it's a very expressive and emotive piece of work, and very uplifting. I knew from the get-go I really wanted to place that next to the title, just because it kind of, you look at it and you're like, okay, yes, I can see how this connects with it, but also it's a great driving force for the rest of it. And it's fantastic. Beautiful.
I'm glad you feel like that.
Of course. No, it's a very powerful piece of work. And even if you don't know the message, you definitely can fade it.
Cool.
So, in following on from that, how do you think your work conveys what you're feeling?
I think it kind of does in a few different ways, but I always find it interesting of what, like, I can sit here and explain different paintings and what they mean to me, but I think the same way that I have one experience with a piece of music and someone else is going to have a totally different one. I love that it's varying. This body of work for me was very much a personal insight of these are the songs that have a strong connection to me, and I just want to have this honest connection and share that with people. So like the main things, particularly for this one, it's the colors that I use, it's the motion that I created in it. It's those little elements that come together to be like, this is how I felt in this moment creating this. So because for each of my paintings, I only ever paint when I'm listening to that piece of music. So sometimes it can be one run through of the song and then that's it. And other ones it might take like 20 plus run throughs, but I really try and keep each like mark authentic. If I'm feeling ecstatic in a song, it's bold colors, it's like bright to me. Or some of them a bit more subdued, or there's like different elements in the paintings that are showing the different emotions that I felt in that, even just in that one song.
100%. One thing I noticed was when looking at them, what really connected me to the different paintings was the types of brush strokes, and I was like, oh yes, I'm feeling energized, or oh, I'm feeling very somber and relaxed. It's fantastic. Hitting on what you just mentioned, what's the longest amount or the largest amount of sessions you've had to take to work on a piece? If that made sense.
Sometimes, it changes for all of them, because sometimes I've done paintings, not so much for this body of work, but other ones similar where it's literally been maybe 6 minutes. Other ones maybe an hour. Other times I'll do one big session to start with, and then I come back for like 5-10 minutes and just add little bits when I feel necessary. But I try not to spend too long on it, because I don't want to go back into, okay, what's this composition? What's this color look like here? It's like
reactionary.
Almost better sometimes spending, I don't want to over curate the work and kind of just let it speak for itself and just let it be. It's whatever it needed to be in that moment.
Well, speaking of curators, have you ever worked with a curator before on one of your exhibitions?
I've worked in like group shows. We've had like where they've been part of a extension, like a part of a big one, and we've just kind of brought the work, and the curators kind of had their vision for it. But this is the most like connection I've had with a curator, which has been really fun. And you've been great this whole time, so this has been sick.
Thank you.
It's been really cool, because I feel like it's a bit more of a personal thing. It's not just like, oh, here's my art, thank you.
You deal
it's
with
been
it,
great
it's
having
your
this
thing.
back and forth communication. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's
Well,
been really great.
all buttery.
Have
Thank
you
you.
enjoyed it? Have you found this whole experience?
Found it definitely educational. I've compared to some of the other experiences that I've had, this has definitely been, I don't want to say the most structured, but it's definitely been the most enjoyable. You kind of know what you're doing. You're a lovely person to work with, and you're pretty organized. So you make the job easy. And it was fantastic. Thank you.
That's good to hear.
Reassuring. Yay.
Yeah.
So moving on to a bit more of a somber question, the times. So for people who don't know, this exhibition was postponed during the first wave of COVID-19 in SA. So Annie, were there any opportunities, or how did these lockdowns and general atmosphere of the world at the moment, I don't want to say prevent your practice, that sounds terrible. How did it affect your practice?
Altered it. Yeah. Yeah, it's been really interesting. In some ways it kind of hasn't changed it at all. In other ways it's changed it dramatically.
Yeah.
So as you know, last year I was meant to go on a residency overseas. I was meant to go to Berlin for 3 months, and clearly that one stopped that. Miss Rona said no. But it was still an incredible experience going through that. We ended up doing it virtually. And it was kind of like a deep dive into how do we make art and how do we communicate as creators in a virtual world now. It was kind of taking it. It wasn't, everyone found it a bit difficult to begin with, but it was this kind of, okay, well, this is the reality we're dealing with now. How do we make the most of that, and how can we start thinking about how to do that?
Exactly.
So it ended up actually being a very positive experience. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because originally I was starting to look at how can I expand this whole idea around music and movement and art. How do I incorporate that with other people? So it was a bit of a stopper towards that, having that barrier of I can't physically be around people as much. But kind of started thinking, okay, how do I get past that barrier? Is this a more personal thing for me right now? Looking at different ways and starting kind of almost kind of opened it up, because I think I was starting to have set ideas of what it needed to be. And it's given me a minute to like stop and have a take back and be like, okay, how else can we start thinking about this? Does that make sense?
Human problem solving skills, but it's just phenomenal in that way, aren't we?
I think it's one thing everyone's had to learn lately, but yeah. Well, but it's been interesting, like logistically as well, trying to figure all that out has been a massive learning curve. So it's been kind of great in some ways. Yeah.
I feel like everyone's definitely learning new skills. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with the in mind of the roadblocks, did the direction of your work have to change in any way during this period, or did you just feel like it needed to?
Yeah, kind of just what I was saying, like it changed into being again more of a inward exploration rather than looking outwardly how music affects everyone, and how I'd love to look further into like how it can connect people, or even just how like different pieces of music connect with different people and why that happens. It was again taking a step back and being like, okay, well, maybe this is the time I can look at how it affects me personally, have a bit of a moment of like a bit of self-indulgence and kind of just look at how I want to express that. So I try to see it not so much as a roadblock, but just as a little break of this is what I can do. And then now I've got time to go and think about what I want to do next. Yeah.
Contemplative. It's very beautiful. So have you found that being able to still create and creating has helped you during this period outside of these projects?
Yeah, to be honest, it's actually, I had in my head that having more time away from other things was going to be like, yes, I'm going to be so creative, I'm going to do so much stuff. And honestly, I found it total opposite. I actually found it really challenging. as I know a lot of people have, and I feel like everyone's like, oh, you can do all this stuff now, like you've got the time, and it's like the mental capacity I think it's taken. I know for myself, and I know a lot of people, a lot of creatives that I've talked to as well, it's like almost pushing yourself to do more in this time, whereas maybe that's the opposite of what some people need. Yeah,
Exactly.
which has been, again, really interesting.
No, I found personally, I've been working on a commission, and in my head, I'm like, yes, I actually have time to focus on it now. But the truth is, when you're not around people, or not around people that you really care about or want to be around, you don't have that inspiration in you anymore. It can be a bit draining, but the will is there, but the mind is not.
Yeah, exactly. It's like kind of in two brains about the whole thing. And particularly, I don't know if you find this, like, I love being around people, and I like my studio, we always have heaps of people in the space, and I find that really comforting and encouraging when making work. And a really big part of my process is talking to people about what I'm doing, what their ideas are, and like going and seeing what else is happening. So having that taken away is a bit jarring as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm personally a big talker when I work. If I don't have someone to talk to, I will start talking to myself, and people don't think I'm okay.
Yeah. Sometimes that works better though, but
hey, at least I'm going to give myself a positive answer.
Exactly.
So on that note, what is the most encouraging or even uplifting thing you've seen in the Adelaide art scene at the moment?
I think a couple of things is one. I've just seen, particularly over the first lot of Corona, so many people reaching out over social media sites to be like, hey, we're in this together, like let's do a little drawing challenge together, or let's do, one thing each day, or I think that's been really sweet. And then I've had a couple of friends, they started this whole project. They started it as just a little silly thing to keep themselves occupied. You've probably heard of it. So Good News Bank, which is, they've had a couple of exhibitions. Yeah, it started off, I just remember seeing them in the studio. So Nicholas Anish and Cassie Thring, they just sat in the studio. I walked in, I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, we're just making money because the arts needs money, right? And then it ended up being this like incredible thing that has just brought joy to so many people. And I think that's just really wonderful that it came out of, well, this much has stopped, so what can we do with this now? And yeah, there's been lots of pockets of that happening.
And it's like, not that I hate money, but I do love good news too. I will take that any day of the week these days.
Yeah.
So following that, are there any artists or group that you feel are doing some really good work at the moment that you'd like to give a little shout out to?
Just continuing on from that. So Cassie Thring and Nicholas Anish, love their work.
Wonderful.
Big fans. Yeah, it's kind of just been, it's actually, sorry, I'm just trying to think of specific names at the moment, but yeah, there's actually some beautiful work. It's been interesting seeing, I think everyone's kind of worried about with like Corona taking over people's artwork or having this dim view, but it's like seeing so many people coming out of this in a positive light and making the most of the situation, still making beautiful work. That's quite honest as well. So,
and I mean, art
it's really exciting that that's happening in Adelaide as well.
Exactly. And I mean, art in itself is kind of a record of the history that's around it at the time. So people reacting negatively or positively is just a beautiful record of what art can actually do. So,
yeah, which is wonderful. Is there any in particular that you felt like you've seen lately, or?
At the moment, I'm self-absorbed, so I'm going to say your exhibition at the RA. But there we go. But on a serious note, to be honest with you, I'm also an essential worker, so I haven't really had a lot of time to go out into the world and see things, unfortunately. But now that unfortunately this fellowship has ended, I might have to allocate some time to actually go see the amazing things that people are actually doing. Reconnect with the world.
Yeah, a little bit. So exciting that you've been able to do this whole fellowship as well. What's like next for you? What are you looking at?
Nervous? I don't know yet. I've noticed quite a lot of galleries doing call outs at the moment, and there's a couple of job openings. There are a few that I wanted to put in for Sydney, but I think I'm going to hold off at the moment considering how the climate is. But keep looking and just keep applying. That's what I'm doing at the moment. No steadfast plan, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, super exciting.
Thank you. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to speak about?
Actually, yes, in a couple of days I've got an opening. So I've been co-curating an exhibition with Timothy Moylan and Nicholas Finish, and we've got, I think, about 15 artists on board now for Urban Cow Studios. Opening Wednesday, but technically we're doing a closing party now.
Okay.
Seems to be the go these days. But basically we've created a fake record store because we took the idea, kind of similar to this idea of my love for music and art. We decided, how cool would it be if we just made fake albums, just because we love the idea of music and art combining.
This is my dream.
Wow.
I'm excited.
It's basically just a bit of something fun, celebration of, like, we've just made all these different records, and it's physical records, and you can go in and pick it out like a normal record store and take it with you as you buy it. Yeah, some t-shirts, like other merch as well. And we've got a band performing on the closing night, who are posing as a creation of one of the bands that we've made up. Which is really exciting. Yeah, so just a bit of a fun one. Yeah.
Definitely fun. 100%. I will be keeping my eye on that. I want to be there.
Yeah, cool. Should be good, yeah.
Definitely. Now, unfortunately, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to have to say thank you, Annie, for joining us, and thank you everyone else for joining us as well. If you have any lingering questions, or if you would like to know more on either the Centre for Creative Health or the Helpmann Academy, please check out their website and social media platforms. Again, thank you and goodbye.